Alright guys, so I'm gonna let some people come in. During this video, I will be attempting to finish up a shirt. It took me a while to make. It's a mesh shirt, and we are putting some sleeves over it or on it. I have to sew it together, and then I'm going to put the sleeves on. So we shared this story a few days ago of an expected mom. She was 17 years old, and she was just days away from giving birth. Make sure. Okay. All right. So her name was Maylashia Hogg. Have anybody heard about this story? This is when did this happened in South Carolina? Anybody else hear about this story? 17 years old, and I don't know if they know what happened. But she was found not too far away from where she lived. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and read what the reports say, okay, while we sew. Just to let you guys know, I crochet for therapy. In my 40s now, I just realized that I needed a lot of help with clarity and focus and just stuff like that, and I asked God to help me with that, and he sent me crocheting. I had picked up crocheting years ago, put it down, and I picked it back up, and I don't plan to put it down. So I would, suggest, if you're a person who has a high-strung life, or you're just high-strung, pick up crocheting. It'll help you. Okay? Are you guys ready to get into the story, guys? Say yes. This is live, so I have to connect with you guys live. I do make pre-recorded videos, but this isn't pre-recorded. So shout out to the replay. But and you guys hashtag replay just so I know that you came in the in the replay, guys. So you guys are ready for me to get into the story? Let me go ahead and call out some people. Hello, Miss Cynthia, Miss Antoinette, Miss Chelsea. Hello. Hi, Miss Shirley. Hi. Hi, Miss Pamela. Welcome in. Welcome in. Let me start off by saying we have to protect our youth. We have to. I know this is a new day. I know everyone is doing their own thing, and we just sometimes can't wait for our teens to grow up and things like that. But we need to protect. Hi, Miss T. Hello, how are you? Thanks for speaking. We have to protect our young people. When you hear about a 17-year-old being, expecting, they need tender treatment. Just because they are carrying a life does not mean that they are necessarily grown. It does not mean that they do not need guidance. It does not mean that your parenting is done. Even though she lost her mom, y'all. She did lose her mother a year and a half ago. So I don't know who was raising her or who took over after mom left. But yeah, we gotta keep hold to our young people, because first of all, having a baby is an adult decision. That is an adult duty. Okay, it is not for the weak. It is not for teenagers, in my opinion. I know it happens. It's been happening since the beginning of time. But just because it's been happening does not mean that it should be happening. You guys agree or disagree? All right. All right. So according to the news reports, the remains of Miss Maylashia Hogg, who was a 17-year-old pregnant girl from Barnwell, South Carolina, was found, okay, less than a half a mile away from her home, okay? She was reported missing by her aunt just a week prior, actually. No. Over 2 weeks earlier, actually. So she was pronounced missing the 8th of the month, and she was found the 24th of the month, guys. So you do the math. And she was 9 months pregnant, guys. She was due to give birth on Valentine's Day. Okay. She had already named her daughter London Charity, and her late mother, who passed a year and a half ago. So her mom passed, okay? The cause of her demise has not been determined, and no suspects have been identified. Okay? The family and the community are seeking answers and justice. Before you can seek justice, you gotta get some answers. You know what happened. I have a question. I do have a question. Where are all the parties in this situation? I'm not gonna fully say what I think. You guys let me know what you guys think, but where are all the parties in this situation? Where was her guardians? What happened? Now, the story is still developing, guys. There's not much there. This is pretty fresh and very unfortunate. Now, what are some things that we can kind of do? This is a story that has this young lady, her life is done, it's over, but we can kind of use this as parents, as young people, whoever's listening to this, and try to help prevent situations like this. Now, why did this happen? Why did this happen? There could be some scenarios, and I'm going to kind of branch off of this. I'm going to leave this alone. I'm just talking about the theme of a person, a young lady about to give birth. Right before she is about to give birth, she is taken out. What are some reasons for that? You guys let me know. What are some reasons for that? Number one, money. Money. Or the lack thereof. Right? Excuse me, y'all. I thought I heard something. I thought I heard something. Oh, my Lord. I know that looked funny on y'all end. The lack of money. Fear of parenthood. Revenge. I feel, obviously, that usually things happen like this from people that the person knows. Would you guys agree or disagree? Now, when we are young, we don't know better. Especially if we are forced to grow up quicker. If something unfortunate happens, like a loss of a loved one or a parent, children are forced to, they're literally taken out of their home, they're taken out of places in which they're used to, and they have to get used to someone else's rules. They have to get used to someone else's treatment. Okay? And so that's usually what happens. That's what I can assume happened in this situation. That the mother was the caregiver or the provider. And I don't know what happened with the mother and what happened there. But I'm assuming the mother was young. Probably no more than in her 30s. If that. Yeah. 30s. And something happened there. We don't know what that story is. But when things happen like this, is obviously something is missing. A lot of us, we don't know how to judge people's character, especially when we're young. We do not know how to judge people's character. We get in the midst of physical attributes, looks, what the person knows how to say, how they make us feel initially. That's what we get caught up on. We have to teach our young people to work on their minds and to not worry about their bodies as much. Don't worry about your looks. You don't want somebody that's just going to be there for a good time, because a good time makes babies. And usually the babies are made and the person is not even ready. The two parties aren't ready. They're not thinking about that. They just caught up in the initial action. That's it. Okay? We have to talk about marriage. We have to talk about that. That is something that is never talked about. We try to say wait until you're older. Wait for that special person. But stuff like this continues to happen. Did you hear what I said? So let's just get back, what they say, to the basics of promoting marriage. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be some people out here and say, well, you know what? Stuff happens in marriages. Yes, it does. But you also have to have discernment. You have to have some wisdom going on. You have to have some street smarts. Ain't nobody telling no 17-year-old to get married. Nor shall we be talking about teenagers. It's okay for them to engage in adult activities. We have to put out, now I don't know who's watching this, and I'm not saying this to offend anybody. I'm just speaking from experience. You have to put your children, your young people, in the activities. Teach them things to do. You know, me being a crocheter now, I come across a lot of crocheters that say that they have been crocheting since they have been young. And this activity right here will, if you take it serious, will keep you out of trouble. It makes you creative. It makes you not have time for all this other stuff that's going on. It makes you focused. When you have people who are focused on what God intends you to do or them to do, things like this, in my opinion, will not happen. I'm tired of reading stories like this. I'm tired of reading stories. Hello, Miss Rhea. I'm tired of reading stories of young mothers or mothers being taken out because the fellas that they allowed to be in their space impregnates them, and then they're not ready to be a parent. Now, I don't know if that's what happened in this. I don't know what happened. This is a developing story. We don't know what happened. I'm just saying the scenarios of what happens in these situations. You know, we have to start doing it. I don't care what the world is telling us. I'm talking to the people who are within the faith and understand, or who has an ear for this type of talk. Because a lot of us are so used to people telling us what we want to hear. Now, I will admit that we have to be careful of what we say. We always have to be careful of what we say. That's never changed, but it's a little more, it's a lot more serious now. You know what I mean? So I can't say what I want to say. So I'm going to say what I need to say. Okay? We have to get back to basics and tell these children. And ain't no telling. You show them the way they should go. Thank you, Miss Renee. Yes. You show them the way they should go. When that child comes out, it depends on you to feed it, clothe it, and teach it. We work so hard every day as mothers and fathers that we forget to raise the children that we help bring here. Notice I said help, because all babies come from heaven. God makes us stewards over children, over his creation. And what's so sad is a lot of the moms and dads today, they are so untaught. They're not ready. You know, people think just, you know, the physical aspect of having children is just all that is to be a mom or a dad, and it's not. There's no reason why your teenage child should be out there engaging in adult activities, especially not today. Come on now. Teach your children the way they should go. Tell them what they need to do. Put them into sports, you know, put them into at-home activities like crocheting. Even if you don't know how to crochet, tell their butts to go on the internet, go on YouTube and go to Today Crochet and get them to crochet. We need to bring that old thing back. What our grandmothers did, our aunties. You know, everybody's your auntie, right? Hey, auntie. No, everybody's not your auntie. Everyone's not your mama. You know why everybody's being called that now? Because a lot of people don't have real mamas at home and aunties at home to call auntie. They didn't have those type of things. So anybody who's older or looks like they know what they're talking about, all of a sudden they're auntie. No, the real aunties would tell you, you're going down the wrong path, mama, don't do that. I had those type of real blood aunts that said, hey, you taking pictures, you sitting wrong. Cross your legs at the ankles, not the knees. Those type of grandmas and aunties are gone. You got so many new grandmas out here who are in their 40s. They're trying to get their youth back because they became mamas at 17. Baby, you can't get your youth back. All you can do is preserve the youth that you have. You remember, you always young to somebody. A 40-year-old is old to a 20-year-old, but young to a 60-year-old. A 60-year-old is old to a 40-year-old, but young to an 80-year-old. So your youth is what you make of it. Your youth, no matter what age you are. Okay? And so you can't get the years back. That's what you can't do. You cannot get those years back. So if you was an old, a young mom, you can't act like you 17 again. Why? Because the child that you had at 17 needs you to teach them better. That's just my opinion. And I don't want to seem like I'm being whatever. But when I hear stories like that, my mind goes into places where, okay, so how can we use this story to help parents? Because at the end of the day, it starts with the parents. We cannot count on our children to teach themselves. I don't care what's going on out here. Oh, if you don't teach them, these streets will. These programs on these cell phones will. Now, you may say, well, shoot, and it's true. You can't teach nobody nothing that you don't know. And that is the true root. So you need to educate yourself. I don't care if you had to, drop out because you became a mom early or a dad early. You can get education. This is the informational age. I ain't got to say what's out there. It's a lot of tools out here for you to learn. You get what I'm saying? If you know how to type, if you got a computer, you have access to a lot of information. Okay? And you ain't even got to tell your child where you got it from. Just know mama said it, daddy said it. This is what you do. I didn't ask my parents. Well, we ain't had, when I was growing up, of course, we didn't have that. Look, we ain't had no internet. And I got a lot of street smarts from my parents. You know, they were young when they had me. You know, they were in their young 20s when they had me. And that's grown to some people now, you know. I know I didn't have teen parents, but I did have parents who were young. And 20 back 30, 40 years or 40 years ago was like 17. 20 now is like 40 because we are aging today like milk. Not aging like fine wine anymore, unfortunately, because we know too much. You know how, before, God intended us to live forever. But because we have knowledge, this is why we are perishing the way we are. And this is spiritual. We weren't supposed to have the knowledge of us being without clothing. We were supposed to just live our lives and enjoy life and name animals and procreate and enjoy one another as husband and wife, right? That's what Adam and Eve was made to do. Hello, Miss Nell. Hello. Thanks for talking or speaking to everyone. Yeah. We were meant to just chill out. We weren't meant to know what we know. But the Bible also says we perish for a lack of knowledge. It's certain things we're supposed to know. And then what we need to know is that we ain't supposed to know everything. When things started to be revealed is the day we started to decay. I don't need to know what type of lifestyle you live in. I don't need to know what happens behind closed doors. I don't need to know how much negative stuff you do in your life. The more I know about that negative stuff, it leaves a tarnish on me. That's why you got to pray that mess off. I don't care what you do. I don't care, because what you do is your business and you want to have to deal with it. But when it starts affecting everyone else, we try to say, well, you know what, that ain't my business. Well, nowadays, it is my business. It is my business to know who my child hangs out with. It is my business to know who my child's boyfriend or girlfriend is. That is your business. We need to go back to the point where when I was a young 15-year-old young lady, I had to bring my boyfriends across my parents. I was told that I was not allowed to have a whole bunch of boyfriends. So I had the same boyfriend 4 years. My granddaddy said, well, I'm not running a harem in here. If you don't know what a harem is, look it up. Miss Nell, you feel what I'm saying? Yes. We need to go back to that. Parenting is not for lazy people. You can tell the lazy parents by what the children do. I was taught when you go outside of this house, you represent this house. So I knew whatever I did in the streets, whatever I did at school, however I carried myself at church, however I carried myself at work, I was a representative of my parenting or how I was raised. So that's just, it is what it is. Parents need to understand that. They tell themselves, well, I can't control what my child does. After a certain point, you cannot. And if you're to that point where you're not able to control them, that means you didn't raise them correctly. You raised them from when they are in your belly. Did you know that if I'm talking to a pregnant woman right now, did you know that you can start teaching your baby right there? You have to understand the baby is in this case of water. So when water is around something, it amplifies everything. So they can hear when you are screaming. They can hear when you are praying. They can hear everything. This generation lacks common sense, discipline, and respect, or lack. Okay. This generation lacks common sense, discipline, and respect. I wasn't raised that way. Wherever I got in trouble at is where I got. Yeah, that's gone because they're saying that, oh, now parents cannot discipline. Discipline does not mean mop your child from east to west. That does not mean that, okay? Yes, you may need a little pat here and a pat there. But what happened is these parents are just so overworked and underraised that they take out negativity out on their children. You know what I mean? So, yeah. What I was saying before she commented, I think, is basically whatever that child does, it is a representation on you as a parent. Stop being lazy, because laziness will get these children in trouble. Okay? Just like a few days ago, it was a story about a young mother or a mother who allowed her young child to wax adults. What kind of mess is that? Why is a 5-year-old waxing anybody? And why is the adult even allowing that? It's disgusting. This world has become disgusting. And I'm going to tell you why. It's always been disgusting. It's always been this way. It's always been freaking stuff happening this way. But the difference is we just didn't know about it. Now, I had that vision of this little girl waxing a grown woman. I didn't want to see that. TMZ puts it up. I am very, very cautious of what I place on anywhere that I'm speaking on. We can allow people, we can tell people things without giving them the visuals. It's disgusting. But then you have to think about, well, how was the mother raised? Obviously, if she allowed her child to do that. Obviously, the mother was mistreated as a child. The mother seen too much too early as a child. That's obvious. I don't need to know her name. I don't need to know her age. I don't need to know her background. God taught us to judge a man by his fruits. A human, okay? Not just a man, a human, by their fruits, meaning their actions, by what's around them, how they talk. You can know who I am without knowing where I live, what I do for a living. You don't need to know none of that. All you got to do is listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Listen to my actions, see, and have discernment, and you'll see who I work for. A lot of us sit under people because they're a pastor or because they got 5 million people watching them, and they get caught up in the okie doke. God told me a long time ago, you don't have to have a whole bunch of people looking at you at one time. Not saying I won't have it. I'm just saying, God already told me what my duty is supposed to be. I'm used to small numbers. It's not about, quantity. I'm from that age. It's not about quantity. It's about quality. These young people are learning that now on social media. They're learning that if they have 5,000 or 50,000 followers, you go live and you only have 10, 12, 15, 30, 40, 50, or 100 people watching you. All 50,000 people are not going to support you. A lot of that is fluff and for look. So that's why we're raising our children, fluff and for look. You're like, okay, I want my child to look good, but they have no street sense. They have no book sense. They have no God sense. They don't have none of that. But they got the fresh kicks and nice clothes, you know. Right? That does absolutely nothing. We have to watch the music that our children listen to. I know it's tough. And I'm like, in my head, I'm talking about this to you guys because God directs my path, and he directs what I say. I don't write anything down. I just get something and God puts the words in my mouth. So some of this stuff I'm like, how is this even possible for in this day and age for a parent to control what the music they listen to, their children listen to, what friends they have, and all of that? How can they can do it? The way that you, and that's an elephant, right? The way that you digest an elephant is one piece at a time. You know, the lazy parents say, man, they're going to learn it somewhere, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cuss around them, and I'm going to drink around them, and I'm going to partake in all the trees around them. Have y'all noticed that since they're legalizing certain things, the children are getting worse? The TV is getting worse? You know, I grew up in a time where they had clean TV. And even those shows that I thought was clean, I'm looking at them now in repeats, and they even had some questionable things. Because once your eyes are open, they're open. You can't close them spiritually, if you will. You know what I mean? Once you know, you know. And so even the things that we had as children or young, and I remember when I was in school, I went to a Catholic school, and they showed the movie Birdcage with Robin Williams, and it's a very funny movie, you know. And to this day, I think it's funny. But then now, because I'm open, my eyes are open, I'm like, well, you know what? That's probably wasn't the best movie for high school students to probably watch, even though it was funny and things like that. And that's how they would promote certain lifestyles. They would promote it in a funny way. Well, it ain't funny no more. The way they present it today is too raw. It's too raw for a 40-year-old. I don't even like it. So because all of these things are available to us visually and audibly and on our cell phones, and you have 24/7 access to all this negative stuff, and this is why the world and our children are becoming the way they are, amongst the food and all the other things that are going on, which I won't say, but you guys know what I'm talking about. People who are in the know, you get what I'm saying. I ain't gotta be straightforward to those who have discernment and those who have an ear for what I am saying. Okay, hello, Miss Tamika, Miss Angela, Miss Kelly, Miss Kim. Hello. Okay, so that's the thing. We have to watch. We have to take care of our children. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world. None of us are. And our smarts only take us but so far. After a while, we all will start to lose a little bit. If you live long enough, you will understand. And I only understand because I took care of ailing parents or a parent, and I saw a person who was sharp as a whatever, and very smart and very this, and then life took them. You know, so be humble in that. Be thankful. If you're able to do what I'm doing, which is talk to someone. I'm talking to people I don't know. So the person I'm talking to, you should be able to go home and tell your child. And you don't have to tell your child everything you did as a youth. You're not your child's friend. This is why these type of stories happen, because the 17-year-old didn't have her mother. She didn't have a mother figure. She didn't have anybody pulling her in and saying, look, mama, you know, all right, you about to become a mama. Stay home. Let's get you together. She didn't have that. You don't have to tell your all that you did and this, that, and the other. You don't have to show your children that, because they're not going to respect you. Now, if you come to them and say, look, I too, had these feelings, or I too was there, but I'm not there anymore, and I don't want you to be there, son or daughter. Don't gratify it. If you don't want your child to smoke, then you can't smoke. If you don't want your child to indulge themselves into adult activities, then unless you are married, you shouldn't be doing that either. You have to live what you preach when you are raising children. You can't tell your daughter don't sleep around, and you got 3 and 4 different daddies in the house every week. You can't tell them they need to go out and get an education, and you're not educating yourself. And I'm not talking about, oh, you didn't graduate from high school, you didn't go to college. They need to see you reading. They need to see you wanting to grow and be better. Because the thing about it is, we're taught that we're grown at 18. I'm in my 40s. I was not grown at 18. I wasn't grown at 21. I was married at 21, 22 years old. But was I fully grown? No. The brain doesn't even fully develop until you're 25. So how are you grown? And then I got, some other wisdoms to say, as long as we live, we should be growing. Once you've grown, you die. And that's the truth. Once you're not able to learn anymore, once you're not able to get knowledge or good things, to know, to better yourself, your life is pretty much done. So stop saying you're grown. Say that you're growing. And say those things in front of your child so they don't be so hard on you. Sometimes our children can be hard on us because we want to be so transparent. We want to be so hip-hop, and I need to tell them I used to do this so they can come and talk to me. Children, teens need to be around adults that can guide them, even though they may seem like they want somebody to be their friend, but that's not what they need. A parent needs to give their child what they need, and it's more than just a roof over their head and some food in their stomach. It's more than that. Like Erykah Badu had this song, this food that I'm giving you is not physical food, it's spiritual food. It's food for the soul. It's food that will basically outlive you. It's food. You're going to give your children food that will outlive you. Because that's the natural, even though the natural course of things are changing, but it is a natural thing to know that your child will outlive you. And when that order gets misconstrued, that's a problem. Right? So you want to start raising your children in the way they should go. Even when you are gone, that will echo and bellow in their heads to say, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to just go ahead and sleep with the first guy who calls me pretty. I grew up being told, you're beautiful, you're pretty. I also was told there's always somebody who looks better than you. And I was glad I was told that, because it don't matter how good you look, it's somebody else over there who's going to look better. You want somebody to be with you because of what's internal. Not because of what's external, because externally things change. So you want your ladies and your gentlemen to learn how to put food within themselves that will basically be internal. And that someone would have to know you more than a day for you to even learn. Because you can't even know what people are really about until months knowing them. You learn how people are in their good times, but you very rarely know how they are in their bad times. When you're moving, I'm from the old school. They say, okay, you move in a neighborhood. They say, go around that neighborhood when? At night. That's how you know how good a neighborhood really is. See how it is at night. And so that's what you have to teach your children. To get to know somebody. Don't just, believe everything they say. Take your time. Because then you'll start to learn more. And you'll never know anybody 100%. But you darn sure don't learn about nobody in bed. You learn something totally different there. There ain't nothing but flesh and soul ties. When you get up outside of the bed with somebody, that's not it. That's whatever that person had, spiritually, physically, boom. It's right on you. That's why you should be more careful of who you're with. Because that is more than just a physical, it's a spiritual act. And I'm sure it's some people out here who know what the heck I'm talking about, right? You have to be careful, even being married for decades. When you are with somebody and that happens, anything that's going on with them, it's automatically broken or it's automatically absorbed. It's a spiritual act. That's how you know in marriage when things are starting to disconnect and things like that. Unfortunately, that's one of the things that isn't happening more, because then I know the truth. You get what I'm saying? So it's very, very dangerous to go around and have those activities with just any old body. If you actually had the discernment to see the different spirits that's within that person, because they've just been going around, sleeping around with everybody, you would probably turn around. Like if you had that discernment to know, oh, this person's been with 100 people, or they've been with 20 people, and you can see the rats, the roaches, the snakes, the barbed wire, the rain, the thunderstorms, the nastiness all in them, you wouldn't go. But see, the thing about it is that would never happen. You will never see that in the physical eye, but you will see it spiritually. But when I'm talking about something, that's something you got to be taught. And if you don't have that ability, or if you're listening to this and ain't nobody in your darn family spiritual, then you need to be the first one. There are so many YouTube channels out here. You have to be careful though. You have to have discernment and ask God to help you to find that right person to listen to, because that person you listen to every week or every day, that person could either get you into heaven or put you downstairs. Oh, they literally have your psyche. That's why you got to be careful, and you got to know the word for yourself and pick up the Bible yourself and just read it, because honey, that's better than any book in the world. It don't matter who it is. That Bible, honey, it got everything in it. Everything you can think of is in that word. And it says you're supposed to teach yourself anyway. You're not supposed to rely on no pastor. You're not supposed to rely on no influencer. Not even me. I'm just a messenger. I ain't no prophet. I ain't no pastor. I'm a messenger. Anybody can be a messenger. Shoot, a dog can be a messenger. Hello. If you really in tune, God will use anything to get his message together. Because if he showed himself, you would be scared. Oh, it says in the Bible, angels will come, they had wings and all that, but they did not show themselves the way they really looked in heaven. They came to people looking just like me and you. Why? Because they did not want us to be scared. So God shows himself in the miracles that he makes, and the people that he brings across your timeline, and the people that cross your path in real life. When the stories that, like this 17-year-old expectant mom found gone, little things like that might come across somebody, who may have a 15, 16-year-old's daughter that's out there, and that may get them to pull their 17-year-old in and say, do you need to talk? A lot of our children, they need to talk, but they don't trust anybody because they've seen so much. Their friends are telling them stuff. They're going and doing stuff behind your back and sneaking and this, that, and the other. But to a parent who knows and has discernment, their child can't sneak around, because you can see when they start doing stuff they had no business doing. It's all around them. You can't hide it. My grandparents were like that. They would look at me and say, they knew the guilt. They saw it. They could smell it. They could see it. It's just they've been there before. They had raised children before. So by the time they was raising me, they already knew the deal. That's where you got to be. And even if you're not there, don't act like you're not there. You want to act like, honey, you know the deal. You remember when you were a teenager. You can remember that silently and go into parent mode. So these stories don't happen more often, because we tired of seeing it. We tired of seeing a 17-year-old mother. You know how many stories we did about that? Young mothers about to give birth, and boom. And these young men come on, just stop giving up your pearls. Stop giving your pearls up. And you wouldn't have to go through stuff like that. Talk to them frank. There's a saying out here, do stupid things, win stupid prizes. You go out here, you sleep around, you're going to get a baby. And some of these young men, they don't even have fathers in the home. So they know nothing about fatherhood. They think everything is just horrible because they don't even know. They don't know nothing because they don't have a father either. They don't have an uncle. You have to teach your children respect for life. If children have these, if they understand you respect people's beings, you respect people, you leave them alone, you don't put your hands on nobody. Are we still teaching these things to our young men? Don't put your hands on nobody. Don't do nothing that you ain't going to be able to afford later. No, don't. You tell them to do protection and all that, but protection ain't 100%. That young lady, Hadia, just passed. You know, I couldn't even look at the darn story because I remember her when I was a young girl. She was so young and so, you know, vivacious and full of hope and during a time where people didn't even know about what, you know, that issue, you know, and she lived a long time, you know. Yeah, and she got it from a child. You know, this stuff is still out here. People trying to act like it's not here anymore. There's so many things out here that can happen when you delve in certain activities. And it's not to put fear out there. Just know what the heck you're doing. And God will have you, will not have you in trouble. He will not guide you wrong. That's what we need. That's what we need to be teaching our children. Getting them saved early because the world is getting worse. This is not a time not to have that tool and teach your child. If you're a parent and you go to church and you listen to prophetess and this and that, and if you listen to these pastors and you see that they're living wrong, you need to stop listening to them. No, ain't nobody perfect, but there's some clear things that pastors should not be doing. And if you see them doing that, stop listening to them. It is what it is. So, my condolences goes out to this family. You know, this is a very hurtful story, very unfortunate. It happens all the time. And you don't want to get to the point where you become numb to stuff like that. Sometimes I see stories like this so many times you get numb. But each case is different. So God had told me, you know what, make a little public service announcement on what to do. The base root cause for stories like this is the lack of knowledge of God. The lack of knowledge for respect for self. Don't go out here, if a man or a woman, if they're not marriage material, if they're not going to marry you ladies, don't give up your pearls. I'm going back to 1920 on that. Because everybody going to make you feel like, oh, this is the new day, and this. And this is why people going quicker, too. Because you're forgetting the base root of how to keep this life going, which is to know that certain things you just don't do. You wait. This is why back in our great-grandparents' times, they got married at 15 and 16 because their butts couldn't wait, so they went on and got married and had 12 kids. But if you notice, that don't happen no more because they're doing a whole bunch of stuff out here to keep that from happening, because it's not about being fruitful and multiplying in that type of aspect. They're being fruitful in other ways, and we have to be, you know, aware of that. All right, guys? So, woo! This is your girl Jenna, just coming here and giving her a piece. Her 2 cents, which ain't 2 cents, it's $2. Okay? I'll see you later.